Welcome to Hairblazers, the podcast where salon owners and industry specialists share their knowledge. Our mission is to empower owners and elevate salons through conversations about what matters most to you. One of the biggest misconceptions in our industry is that a higher commission percentage equals higher earnings. There are many elements that go into setting your commission percentages as an owner and understanding your commission percentages as a hairstylist. Today, we're going to dive into service fees. Today, I'm welcoming back Jody Ohama, who is a former salon owner, which will be very helpful in this conversation.
Yes.
And a leadership guru as well. And today, we are talking about the world of commission salons and more specifically, service charges.
Yeah, service costs and commission salons, right? We're going to have this conversation about this. Highly misunderstood.
Very misunderstood.
Lots of questions out there. So this episode, I think, will be great for salon owners as well as stylists. Yeah,
absolutely. So I want to start by a little mini story here. And so I was reading the Aveda Facebook group. And I know this doesn't just happen in Aveda salons. It happens in all salons. And somebody put the question in, what does everybody make commission in their salons? And I was just like, get me some popcorn and I'm just going to read through all these answers. So, and it was exactly what I expected. You have people saying, oh, I make 50. Oh, I make 35. But then there's this amount coming off as a service charge. Oh, I don't have service charges. I make 75. Oh, you're so lucky. It was crazy. The amount of different answers I was looking at. And there were a few people that kind of had the same thought as me, which was like, you need to look at the whole picture. Commission is not just a percentage. So much. So service charges, service cost, service fee, whatever it's called, plays a big role in what you're taking home, like what a stylist takes home. And also for a salon owner, like what you're actually netting in your business after all your costs and you're paying out all your stylists. So maybe, Jody, you can talk about kind of what a service fee or service charge is and why it's important.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. I think that's so, you said you're on this Facebook group and really the question that people are wanting to know is how much money people are making.
Yes.
It's not really about the percentage of commission. It's really about like how much money are people making? And that's a very different conversation than percentage. And that idea that a commission percentage is how much money you make. It's not. No. So service fees or service costs, how I've sort of seen it in the industry. Again, like you said, I was a salon owner. I had multi-locations. I've also been in the industry for over 30 years, which is crazy to me. And I have the great pleasure of being a salon coach with Cunity, which is an organization in the States. So I work with lots of different salons. So service fees, sometimes it includes, just all the fees to do the service. So it could be like cleaning. It could be sometimes marketing's in there. Sometimes
credit card fees.
Credit card fees is a big one. Like
wrote these
towels,
down,
products, like all that sort of stuff. Like what is the cost of doing a service? Right. So that's sort of what we're talking about. We're talking about service costs. And I think for salon owners, as well as stylists, it's really important to understand how you recoup those costs. Those costs happen. You have to pay for those costs no matter what. It's not like it's not like you can choose to not pay for them. So, how are you paying for them? How are you taking them out of the prices that clients are paying? And then how are you paying your stylists on commission?
Yeah, absolutely. So I know you went through a lot of them already, but like, you were talking about color, shampoo, foils, towels, credit card fees on services and retail, but also like tips. Is your salon owner allowing your guests to pay through credit cards? Right, because if they're not, you're definitely not making as much in tips as a lot of people. It's a well-known fact. People often pay more when they're in tips when they're paying on a credit card. The operational costs like electricity, water, cleaning supplies, assistants, frontline. Who do you have working guest services? Yeah. Are you washing your own guests? Like there's so many parts to it. Marketing, education, vacation pay, and health benefits.
Yeah, there's all these. Like there's so many fees. There's so many costs of running a business, right? Regardless if you are in a commission salon, a team-based salon, a chair rental, a suite, like all of those costs, you have to pay for those costs somehow. So we see it in service costs. We see it when we're talking about that specifically with commission. There are a few different ways that salons sort of do this or approach.
Yeah, maybe break it down for people who need to understand.
I think the most common way is where a salon will take the service fee. So whatever that is, whether it's a percentage, oftentimes it's a percentage or a dollar amount. They'll take that off of the service price, and then they'll pay commission on what's left over. Right. So for example, if a service costs $100 and the service fees are $20, the $20 comes off that 100 and the commission is paid on the $80. That's what I see most often,
Yes.
is that the service costs come at the top, commission comes off there. I've also seen in quite a few salons do this is where the salon will do it where it's just a lower commission. So say it'll be like a 35% commission, but that's off everything.
Yes.
So that's off, so
There's no
it's
service
just,
fee.
right. There's no service fee. There is, of course, a service fee because we still always have to pay a service fee, but you're not seeing it broken out that way.
So this is a good example of when someone says, I make 35% commission and someone says, I make 50% commission.
Right.
You can't compare the two.
Right.
One, you having service fees taken off, the other not so much, right?
Yeah.
Or before.
For example, 50% of 80. So again, if we have that service price of 100 minus $20 of service fees, so it's $80. So it's 50% of 80. That means someone's being paid $40. Okay. If you have $100, same scenario, $100, but they're getting paid 40% commission of $100, same thing, $40.
Absolutely.
So you're like, okay, I'm doing math. You're like, you're like,
give me a second. Yeah.
So the first one is, okay, you're taking the product costs. They're essentially splitting the product costs with the salon.
Yes.
The stylist salon, they're both saying, okay, and then now commission is on the rest. The other one is like, okay, they're not taking out any of the product costs. So you're getting a lower percentage of commission. And the other way that I've seen it is also where there's commission, say you get a 60 or 75% commission, but then you pay the product costs. When I say you, it's the stylist.
Right.
So again, maybe you're getting paid 75% on that 100 is $75. But if it's $20, then you're paying for that from your 75. So that might be that option. And then the fourth example that I see is just putting that service cost right to the client.
Right.
So here's the service fee. It's a separate ticket, or it's a separate line item on the ticket.
And keeping with that in mind, if that's the way that you're getting paid, is that in that case, you're not making commission on any of that product. So if like a guest is paying for extra formulas, that does take you extra time, but in that case, you're not getting paid on it. So that's something else to think about as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's kind of like a finite amount. Another thing to keep in mind is also the salon itself. So maybe you're looking at one salon that has a higher service fee than another salon. Well, maybe take a look at why that is. Do they have a marketing team? What services do they provide for their employees? Do they have health benefits? Do they give free education? Like there's so many things to look at. And maybe is it, a higher end salon where you're able to charge a lot more? Because if you're charging more than you're charging now and you might have a higher service fee, you're probably still coming out on top with how much money you're making, which in the end is what it's about.
And that's again, I really can't stress that enough. It's like, it's not about the commission percentage. It's about how much money you make. So you could go to a salon where you're charging $100, right? And you're getting 55% commission, and that's highly unlikely. Sustainable businesses, sustainable salons, really about 45% is the highest commission that a salon can pay if they're delivering all those other things, that make a business great, education, marketing, health benefits, blah, blah, blah. To go back to that thing that we said earlier around, it's not about the actual percentage of commission. It's about how much money you make. That's really what we care about, or what stylists care about, and I shouldn't say just care about, but it's really like how much money are you making? So same thing. If you're working in a salon that you can only charge $100 for the service and you're getting 50%, great. That's okay. But what about working in a salon where you can charge $150 for your service and get paid 50%? That's a different, it's $50 versus $75. And then the other things you have to think about too, it's what is the salon paying for? Is the salon providing education? Are they providing marketing? Is someone doing your laundry? Is someone booking your appointments? Is someone doing the guest follow-up? Is someone doing, all those things? Like all of those have costs and expenses. And fine, if you don't want to pay those and you're an independent, then you just have to factor that those hours are also included in your work, right? So it's not actually, again, it's not about the commission or the percentage. It's really about
just so many factors. I know, just sitting here thinking of just so many other things as well. It's like figure out what's most important to you.
Yeah.
And if charging more money or having more growth isn't something that's like super important to you, then maybe you don't need to go to the salon that does that and maybe has a slightly higher service fee.
Well, yeah, like that's the thing. It's like you can, I always say this, I'm like 100% of nothing is still nothing, right? Like, so, and 50% of something substantial is a lot.
Absolutely.
So it really does depend on, what's the reputation of that salon. Like, are they getting new clients? Are they, are they doing all those things?
How long have they been open for?
How long have they been open?
Yeah, because you definitely want to be working at a salon that is able to grow, be sustainable, and that's not going to come if they're not making money as well, right? It's not like a dirty thing for a salon. A salon needs to make money.
Yeah, of course.
Also, when you look at big picture, and I think there's moments where stylists maybe feel like, look at all this money I'm bringing in, and like they're just pocketing this money. You hear it often, right? They're pocketing this money. When in reality, like most salons on services are netting like around 5%. Yeah. So it's not a huge amount.
No, it's not. And we really work with salons to try and be minimum 10% profitability, right? But yeah, and I think it's important for everyone to do the math, salon owners and stylists to do the math. That mentality of like, oh, well, the salon owner is pocketing 50%. I'm getting paid 50%. The salon owner is pocketing 50%. Well, I want everyone to just make a list of like all the expenses it costs to own a salon or to run a salon. And you have the things like rent and utilities and insurance and credit card fees, like all these things. When you actually do the math of everything, very little is left over. Like for salon owners, you have to really love the industry. You really have to want to make an impact in people's lives, right? Yeah. It's not about getting rich.
It's not.
That's for sure.
It's not. But I wish. I mean, and it's all, it is about passion. You can't just do it just because you think that there's a ton of money to be made.
Yeah. Absolutely. You can make money, but it's hard work, like it is constantly striving to be better, constantly, managing your business well, constantly leveling up your own skills.
I think something that is a good step for salon owners to take who might feel like they're in that position where they're, some of their stylists might be feeling like, oh, I feel like the salon's, making all this money off of me, is be transparent. At your next staff meeting, break it down.
Oh, yeah.
Show your stylist where the money's going. And I think they'll feel a lot better about it. You'll feel a lot better about it. And it's just a good way to kind of bring both sides together because you don't want to have people feeling resentful.
Yeah. I had this great activity that we've done in quite a few salons. You have $100, $100 bills, or in Canada, 100 loonies. And you say, okay, out of like, in every month of this $100, like how many dollars has to go to rent, and ask the team how much you think, like, what are all the costs that are associated? And it's pretty easy. Like I've never done that activity where we have money left over.
Right.
So it's, which is, of course that's not the case. Of course we can manage our business well, right? And we want to make sure that we're intentional with our spending and all that. But if you start thinking about it, like just think about a class, like how much does education cost? How much does health benefits cost? How much does a CPP and EI and payroll taxes and vacation pay and, all of these things, cleaning supplies, products, like it just is crazy. Like you just go down the list of like, what are all the expenses? So however you choose to take part in this industry. So, again, as if you're a stylist, you're a chair rental, if you're suite, if you're working in a commission salon or a team-based salon or you're a salon owner, it's important to really look at the big picture. That's a crazy assumption or misconception that, salon owners are raking in. It's not true. It's still a great business to have. You can make such a huge impact, like I said, but, and you can be profitable, but you do have to love it. People don't buy a salon to make money. It can't just be that. It's really about the impact that you can make in the community and make money.
Love that.
Provide.
And as a stylist, if you're trying to figure out, well, then I don't know, like, am I making what I should be making? I mean, really, first of all, what should you be making? Like, that's something for you to decide. And if you want to know kind of what you're making, a great activity is to find out how many hours you're working. Say, like I did this for our team, a compensation versus commission. How many hours did they work over the year? Like working hours behind the chair? How much money did they make? Figure out what they're making hourly. And I think you might be surprised when you look at it. I think
it's a great one. Hourly. The reality is like, how much money are you making an hour? It's not about, just get rid of that commission percentage. Like, because I know lots of $100,000 plus stylists who, it's not about the commission, right? So the hourly, I think that's a really great activity. And even doing it on a monthly, like how much am I making an hour, and include tips in there, because this is an industry where we can make great tips, right? So that's also part of your wage. And then when when you think about it, like our industry is so accessible, it's like you go to school for 10 months, you have an apprenticeship for a couple of years, again, depending on the province. Like I love this industry that it's, it has that ability. anyone can enter this industry and make a great living. Like 6 figures is not a difficult thing to do in our industry.
Takes time.
It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. And it takes effort, of course, but it's totally possible.
It is.
Totally possible in all areas. Like I've seen it, like a bunch of different cities and stuff. So yeah, I think the hourly, like truly understanding what you make hourly and then compare it to other industries is pretty awesome.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's pretty great. Let's talk about service fees as a salon owner. It is, I think, really important for salon owners to understand where their money is going.
Yes.
And to actually have it budgeted proactively to say, okay, here's, I have X amount of dollars for this, based on the percentage of your sales, this is going to this. Again, I think too many salon owners get in that place of reactivity where at the end of the month, they're like, oh my gosh, I don't have any money, or I've overspent, and they have no plan for, what the next month or the next quarter. So salon owner, it's really important to understand how much can you afford on guest services? How much can you afford on inventory? How much can you afford on marketing? How much can you afford on, your credit card fees? How much can you afford on rent? Like what, all of those things. And again, some of those costs are fixed. You have to pay them regardless. And some of them you have a little bit more control over, right? But that awareness is so important.
And if as a salon owner, you're working behind the chair, don't make it so your business only survives from what you bring in. Like you need to make sure it's sustainable as if, at some point, ideally, as if you weren't even working behind the chair.
Yeah. Colleen, great point. I know a lot of salon owners who bought themselves a job.
Yes.
They've invested a lot of money, they've invested a lot of time, and now they're working behind the chair 5 days a week and then doing their books, doing their coaching, mentoring, whatever, marketing, all that sort of stuff outside of those 5 days a week. And essentially, when you look at that, okay, now do the math. Now look at how many hours you're working in a week and how much you're making.
Your employees are making more than you, that's for sure.
Yeah, sometimes, So yeah, I think that it's important for salon owners to understand their service costs too, like the service fees. How do they manage this? How do they ensure that they can afford them? Any salon owner that's saying that they can pay 75% commission, I think that's a really desperate, that's, sadly the cases that I've seen. Sadly the cases I've seen of that it's a desperation. It's not sustainable, of course. Of course it's not sustainable. No. So, yeah.
So new talent, coming in, remember like in those first 2, 3, 4 years, it's most likely costing your owners money to have you working there. You need to take time to get to the point where, you're making the money that really excites you or,
it doesn't happen overnight. New talents, like again, this industry, you have the potential to make a lot of money in this industry, but it is, it doesn't happen overnight. There's a lot of skill development. You want to make sure that you're in a great salon that's nurturing, that provides education, that provides mentoring, that provides coaching. And, for the first 4 or 5 years, there's a ton of investment that has to happen in new talents, investment in time, resources, education, money, all of those things. And oftentimes you're paying, as a salon owner, you're paying for a new talent, their hourly wage, way more than what they're bringing in, so they're an expense to you. So a salon owner, you want to make sure that you are budgeting that appropriately, probably 3-4 years, hopefully sooner, depending on your processes and your systems. And then also as a new talent stylist, just know that it's going to take some time to build. Hairstyling is a real skill in the sense of like, not only do you have to have the technical skills, and you have to be really strong technically, and that's something that you have to learn. But there's this whole other part of it. So you have to have the business or the customer service skills. And that's, again, this whole other group of skills. That's a whole podcast. We can do a separate podcast. But again, I think people entering this industry or being in this industry, again, salon owners or stylists, you have to know that it's not just technical. You can be great technical hairstylists, but if you don't have the experiential stuff or if you're not providing experience.
Love that word, experience.
Yeah. Like
and building relationships.
Yeah. That relationship, then you're not going to be successful. Same thing. You can be amazing relationally, but if you don't have the technical skills to back you up, it's going to be very difficult. So it's both of these. You have to work on both of these. Again, find a salon that is going to sort of foster both of them.
Jody, thanks so much for doing these podcasts with me. Like your knowledge, your inspiration, just blows me away every time. And time flies when I'm chatting with you. So thank you for being here.
My absolute pleasure, Colleen. Thanks so much for having me. I could talk about this stuff all day. So yeah,
we'll get you back on here again.
Happy to do it. Thanks.
Thank you so much for listening. Please leave a review, share with your friends, and tune in for our next episode. We appreciate you.